The Indian culture has a long tradition of education, whether it's the formal education or whether it's informal education. And it becomes essential to understand how the education has been developing, how the teacher's role has been changing over times. In ancient times, education was considered as a process of self-improvement, which continued from birth till death. At primary stage, it was considered as an education of living life, learning to perform the routine activities of day-to-day life. And hence it might not have been thought of as a separate stage of formal education. However, it was considered as a preparation to life, as a preparation for life. When you're preparing for all the different roles which you're going to play in the future life, you're preparing for them in the primary stage of education. During those times, knowledge was considered as a third eye, giving insights to all the affairs of life. As previously said, it was considered as a third eye, which is giving an insight into all the affairs of life. So you're not just having a preliminary glance of the thing, you're getting into the in-depth of the thing. You're understanding the logic behind the day-to-day activities which you're carrying. Once you have the logic, obviously you're going to perform better. How the Indian education was aiming at? What were the aims of Indian education? The spirituality, the character building, the personality development, the civic sense, promoting efficiency, preservation and propagation of culture. These were the set goals and aims of education, and all the other activities used to revolve around these because the aim of education was set. Now once you know that the aim of education is personality development, so the curriculum was planned in that manner that the curriculum development or the personality development was enhanced on the part of the individual. In those days, education was considered as a lifelong continuous process of self-improvement. So please understand here, it was a lifelong continuous process. It wasn't something which would stop at class 12th or which would stop at certain years of life. It was considered as a continuous process and the aim was self-improvement. Further, it was considered as a source for harmonious progressive development of physical, mental, intellectual and spiritual capabilities of the student to live as a useful citizen and make progress in the present as well as in the future life. So the aim of education wasn't limited to the present life of the individual, it extended to the future life of the individual as well. Now let's understand what kind of education system did the ancient India have. Ancient India had a Gurukul system. The student was required to stay with the Guru for the specified period of study. Guru's ashram was a kind of boarding school if we compare it in the present context. Everyone, irrespective of the richness or the higher status, they lived together, they were treated same. Even the princes of the kingdoms used to stay in the same setup where other individuals were staying. And they would stay as poor in the Gurukul. Like we all have heard of the story of Krishna and Sudama. Education in Gurukul was supposed to be free. But yes, there were different systems to support the Gurukul because definitely there was cost, but the cost wasn't incurred from the students. So to support the Gurukul, everyone had to beg alms, Madhukari as it was called during that time. Now what was the purpose of this Madhukari? This Madhukari or begging alms was fixed for everybody, every child in the Gurukul. So whether the child is from the upper class or whether the child is of a king or whether the child belonged to somebody who was from a lower social background. Because Madhukari was expected to teach them humility and a certain kind of in-depthness to the society for supporting them as a student. Also, it helped in minimizing the caste hierarchy and treating all the students as equal. So one understands if everybody is going out to beg for alms, so it was giving a certain kind of equality among all the children, irrespective of the background they are coming from, irrespective of the lineage they are carrying. So Madhukari helped in maintaining this caste, helped in absolving this caste hierarchy. Now let's come to the further conclusion of the things, who was the Guru? Guru was the head of the Gurukul. He was like a father figure, he was like a parent, he was like a guardian of the inmates. He taught students without charging any kind of fees. Now this flows from how the Gurukul was working. We said that Gurukul was not supposed to charge anything. The similar was happening for the Guru who was the head of the Gurukul, that they were not charging anything. They were not charging any kind of fees from the students. But how do they manage the things then? For Guru, charging fees was like a taboo. He wasn't considered good if he was charging any kind of fee from the students. A Guru would consider Vidya Dan as the best Dan, and they would condemn the very idea of selling knowledge. So it was considered that knowledge is something which cannot be sold. So it is the prerogative of the Gurukul that they won't charge anything from the students. Now, how did they support themselves? The Gurukuls were supported by the donations. Donations from the kings, there were donations from the philanthropists, and the donations from the rich of the society. Further, they would get Guru Dakshina from the students once they have completed the education. Now, what was this Guru Dakshina? Guru Dakshina was an offering of the student as a parting gift to the Gurukul at the end of the study. It need not be in the form of money, it can be in any other form the way the Guru desires. It may be in the form of certain vices which the student would drop in, it would be in the form of certain pledges which the student may take. So, all these donations and Guru Dakshina was enough to support the ashram and inmates as they practiced austerity, and there wasn't any kind of accumulation of wealth. In fact, accumulation of wealth was not permitted at all on the part of the Guru. Only a real scholar, a proven master, a spiritually enlightened person was recognized, appointed and respected as Guru. So anybody could not have desired and become a Guru. They need to have certain qualities among themselves, only then they could take the shape or they could take the form of a Guru. So the person needs to be honest, the person needs to be spiritually enlightened, only then the person can be appointed and respected as a Guru. As you know, India has a very old tradition of Guru Shishya Parampara. For his selfless service, the teacher or the Guru was held in very high esteem by the society and was respected even by the kings. Kings means the rulers of the society. Even the kings used to respect Gurus a lot. A Guru was revered more than parents and enjoyed a unique status even higher than that of the gods. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Narma. So that says in itself that Guru was even higher than the God. Different scriptures have been talking about this importance of God in some of the other kind of phrases. So there have been shlokas like Guru Govind do khade kake lagu paye, Balihari Guru aapne Govind diyo milaye. So in all these shlokas you can see that this God was secondary when it comes to the Guru, because it was Guru who was making the individuals reach to the God. The Guru was considered as an epitome of good qualities of both head, heart and hand. So he is going to have good qualities of head, heart and hand. He would have qualities of spirituality. He would have in-depth knowledge about the whole society. He would have a scholarship to himself. A true teacher was supposed to be a student till the end of his life. So it's something like the concept of L3 teacher as we have these days, a lifelong learner. Now, if you see the present system of education and present connotations which are attached to the teacher, there are many of them who are flowing from the ancient concept of the Guru. So, this lifelong teacher, even Rabindranath Tagore has talked about the same. He said that a teacher gives knowledge only till the teacher is burning himself or herself. So, he has compared Guru to a candle. A candle gives knowledge only till it is burning. So it was same for the Guru. He was like a lifelong learner. He was a guide by the side and not the sage on the stage. That was the difference between a Guru and a sage. A sage is somebody who is sitting on the stage and is giving his directions from there. But Guru was supposed to be a guide who was always by your side. That was the essential difference between the two. Gurus were supposed to be an institution by themselves. They were famous for their scholarship. They were famous for their sacrifices. The students all over the world would get attracted to certain gurus or would get attracted to the reputed gurus in India. India was considered to be the epitome of knowledge. India was considered to be the homeland of these kind of gurus. When the number of students were large, the gurus would involve senior or brilliant students in the management of the teaching learning process. See how it happened, because there were a limited number of gurus, but eventually as the population grew and as the awareness grew, there were a number of people who were coming to these gurus for education. So it wasn't possible for guru always to cater to all the individuals who are coming to his gurukul for education. So what guru would do is, guru would teach his senior or brilliant students and they would manage the further teaching learning process. Everything wasn't left on these senior or brilliant students. However, the guru would always be there to guide these people, but they would help in management of teaching learning process. Now, how did this help? This provided the much needed assistance to guru in his work. This was something which was very much needed, because the number of children who were coming, or the number of learning knowledge seekers who were coming to the Gurukul was getting increased, and there were a limited number of gurus. So this kind of assistance, when was provided by the senior students or when was provided by the brilliant students, that would ease the burden on the teacher or the guru, and they would get this assistance from these children. Further, it also provided a certain kind of teacher training opportunity to these young learners. So within the setting of the system, within the setting of the Gurukul, as learners also, they were getting this opportunity to get teacher training also. They also got the opportunity for learning the art of teaching to the prospective teachers under the direct supervision of Guru. This is very different from the kind of teacher training system we have these days. Here, you do not get this offhand or on-hand experience directly. However, in that system of Gurukul, under the direct supervision of Guru, you were managing this teaching learning process. Now, when you were getting that kind of opportunity, it helped the student a lot, because the Guru was in direct touch with the student. So, they would monitor them, they would tell them, they would improve them, and definitely the product was a better one. Now, this monitorial system is a contribution of ancient Indian education system to induct the pupils. The ancient education system had this monitorial system wherein the guru would train the pupils, the senior pupils, and these senior pupils would train the junior students or the new students who were coming into the system. They could be either the son of the teacher or older senior abler students as teachers. So it wasn't necessary that these young brilliant children of the teachers, they may be the children of the teachers and they may be the senior abler students also. Later, during Manu's period, the social order changed. Now, it was that anyone who is born as a Brahmin would become a guru, whether scholarly or not. So, here the caste system came into effect. If you are a Brahmin, you are born to a Brahmin, you are going to become a guru, whether you are scholarly or not. So, your occupation was certainly attached to the lineage which you are carrying. Occupation was attached to the family in which you are born. Occupation was attached to the caste in which you were born. The father will teach and train the son as a teacher. Teaching almost became like a family profession of the Brahmins only. Now, this was not what the ancient education system, or this was not what the monitorial system had perceived. They were talking of the abler students, the senior students, the students who were deserving enough, the students had those capabilities of a teacher. They were the ones who were trained and they were the ones who were given the responsibilities. But when it came to the Manu's period, things changed and teaching almost became a profession of the Brahmins only. So the other caste people weren't allowed to become gurus. Now let's move further. What are the different rules and responsibilities which were expected of a guru? In those days, Guru had to perform a variety of roles for the students. He was a parent to the children, he was a teacher to the children, he was a scholar to the students, he was a missionary to the students, he was a friend, a philosopher and a guide to the students. Now you can understand that the Guru would have to play this kind of multi-dimensional roles only because of the simple fact that these children were living in the Gurukul. They were not day boarding kind of arrangement during those times. So the children were living in this setup only. We have heard stories from Ramayana where Ram and his brothers had moved to the Gurukul and they stayed there for a considerable amount of time until and unless they had finished their education. So Guru was expected to pay personal attention to the needs of the students. It was the responsibility of the guru to see that the students develops. He makes progression. He makes progress to the satisfaction of the guru as well as to his own satisfaction. So this satisfaction, this self-knowledge was very important during those times. There used to be a very intimate relationship between the teacher and the taught, almost like a father and a son. Teaching method was oral. It was interaction based. There used to be dialogues between the teacher and the taught. The written education started quite long. During this phase which we are talking of, it was more of an oral interaction which was there between the teacher and the taught. There used to be lectures, there would be discourses, there would be debates, there would be discussions, recitations would be there, recapitulations would be there, and all this would form a part of the student's daily routine. So in daily routine life also, the student would be exposed to all these kind of activities. It wasn't that lectures were a stipulated phase of the monthly planner or something like that. That used to be a part of the daily student life. Now, if the lectures were happening, if this kind of teaching learning process was happening, how was the assessment happening? That seems to be a question mark, or that seems to be something which arouses curiosity in us. Assessment was continuous. It was comprehensive. It was internally conducted by the guru. Now, if you heard the term continuous, if you hear the term comprehensive assessment, you get immediately stuck to that continuous and comprehensive evaluation, which we understood now. But our gurus had been using that system for long, even in the ancient India. There were no terminal examinations. There were no degree certificates, but only announcement by the guru in the convocation that student has graduated after completion of the stipulated studies. However, things didn't stop here, that the guru would announce that the student has studied and things would automatically flow. Definitely, there were certain kind of arrangements which were made so that the society also gets a confidence that the student has actually got that kind of knowledge with himself. So what would a guru do for the same? Guru would present the qualified student to a gathering of learned people who may ask questions, or the student could be asked to contest in a debate and prove himself. So how things would happen is, one child or one learner has completed his education, the guru presents him to the society, he arranges for an open house session kind of thing, and all the people who are there, maybe the learned people or maybe the general society members, they would ask questions to the student to see that whether the child has actually got that amount of scholarly knowledge or not. Or other way could be, the student could be asked to contest in a debate and prove himself. Now once done that, the student was acknowledged as a scholarly person. The student was taken that he has completed his education under the so-called guru, and now he is fit to be a scholarly person. The student would be then known for his mastery over the subject and accepted as a scholarly person. Now this autonomy of the learner was respected. This was another catch point during that system, that autonomy of the learner was also respected. The student was free to choose the guru and the subject of studies. So you had both the options. You could choose your guru also yourself, and you could choose your subject of study also yourself. But this autonomy wasn't limited only to the student. This autonomy was given even to the gurus also. So guru also had a prerogative that whether you want to accept a particular student as your shishya or not. If you accept it, only then the student would be taken in as your shishya. We all have heard where Dronacharya refused Karan to have him as his students because of XYZ reasons. Point is that they were giving this prerogative that whether you want to accept that student as your shishya or not. This was about the education system. This was about the role of teacher or the vision of guru which was envisioned by the society at that time. Let's move further. Let's talk about the different educational institutions, how they got formally established. The educational institutions formally got established in the form of centers for higher learning during the Buddhist period in monasteries and temples. So until then, until the Buddhist period, during the ancient phase, what was happening was that educational institutions were only in the form of gurukuls. So only the students would be coming to the gurukuls. However, when we progress to the Buddhist period, as things changed, people changed, societies changed, and obviously the ruling dynasties changed. So there, the centers of higher education institutions were established in monasteries and temples. These places developed into big establishments during King Ashoka's time as counterpart of Hindu Gurukuls. So it was this phase of King Ashoka when monasteries were established or when temples became the centers of higher learning. These were quite similar to Gurukuls in certain senses and different in certain senses. They became residential universities. Primarily, they were centers of higher education. They would have clusters of teachers or gurus and students who would be living and working together in pursuit of knowledge. So this was similar to a Gurukul, but Gurukul was limited to a level of knowledge. These monasteries were more towards the higher education. So here also the teachers and the students would be living together. They would be living and working together in pursuit of knowledge. Education was supposed to be a pursuit of knowledge, and teachers and learners both were co-partners in the same. It wasn't that only the guru would be having all the knowledge and he has to transfer it to the students. So it was both gurus and students who were living together, who were working together in pursuit of knowledge. They would engage themselves in creation, conservation, and dissemination of knowledge. So there were three main things which were happening in these universities or monasteries was creation of knowledge, conservation of knowledge, and dissemination of knowledge. It's not possible that you create knowledge, you conserve the knowledge, but you do not disseminate it to the people. So for knowledge to be better used, knowledge to be better applied in the general day-to-day life, it becomes essential that knowledge is disseminated to the larger society also. How did these institutions work? There were three main functions of these modern universities: teaching, research, and extension. Now, if you look at the role of university in the present day context, even in the present day context, when it comes to the functions of the university, three main broad areas are teaching, research, and extension. The similar was followed in the previous year or in the Buddhist period also. Admissions were made through the entrance test, very hard one, at well-known places of higher education like Takshila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, Vallabhai, Nadia, Kanchi, Banaras, etc. So there were different centers of knowledge, and the ones who were more popular or the ones who were more highly reputed had difficult entrance tests, quite similar to the ones which we face these days. We have entrance tests or some other kind of elimination rounds so that we take in certain students for higher education, but we do not take all the students for higher education. So during those times also, there used to be entrance tests for the same. These centers would attract students from all over the world. Not just India, they would have students from all over the world. Gurukul would continue to impart the instruction in individual capacity, but not as an institution. Now this was one characteristic difference between a Gurukul and a monastery or an institution. Institution would work not at an individual capacity. However, Gurukul would work at an individual capacity. There were pathshalas also during the medieval period. So ancient period, medieval period, Buddhist period had similar kinds of education system also, but there were things which were different also. Like we had pathshalas during the medieval period, there were maktabs for lower education and madrasas for higher education during the Muslim period. They were established in the mosque for imparting religious and Islamic education, as a part of Holy Quran was taught to the Muslim children by the mullahs and the maulvis in these centers. Now this was similar to Gurukuls in the sense, or to the monasteries in the sense that the places of worship were used for imparting education. But the kind of education which was imparted was very different. Gurukuls had been providing education which was a preparation of life, which was for the betterment of the individual, which was for the pursuit of knowledge. However, the education given by mullahs and maulvis, that was limited to the religious education. So madrasas was providing knowledge only about the Quran and only to the Muslim children. So there was narrowness of the aim here. This kind of arrangement continued till the East India Company entered India and they established themselves as a controlling authority in many regions. Now with the advent of the East India Company in the India, you would realize that they were controlling authority in many regions. They changed different systems. They changed the Gurukul system of education. They did not accept Gurukul as a formal system of education. So they introduced the concept of schools, colleges and universities. However, we need not forget whatever we have got from our past. There were things which were coming to us back now through the Western direction. We are talking of constructivism now. We are talking of continuous and comprehensive evaluation as a Western concept now. But as you have already heard, that in the previous years, in the ancient times only, we were the ones who were using continuous and comprehensive evaluation. So we need to respect our lineage, we need to respect our history, and we need to learn from those things. Thank you all for this session.